everybody. Hello, Dr. Suzanne again. How are you? This is our day, our third episode. Isn't it beautiful?
Great. I'm looking forward to sharing this with you today. Today, we're going to look at that spirit nutrition connection. And people all over the world are struggling to find the right diet. And so fads and foods become in and out. They're good, they're not good. The internet is just full of everyone talking about what's the best thing to eat, when is the best time to eat it. And so we're questioning all the time. And at the same time, especially what's going on in the world, we're looking at why am I here? What's my purpose? What is my soul telling me? And when we look at that spirit, body, mind connection, we need to remember that the food that we eat has spirit. It has energy. Our indigenous peoples taught us to worship and honor, not worship, but honor the spirit of the corn, the spirit of the bear, the spirit of the foods that they were consuming. And we've lost that step. We rush, and eat. And we miss that step of taking that moment to look at how are we connecting really with spirit.
So this is why you've called it the spirit, how did you call the presentation today? The spirit nutrition connection.
The spirit nutrition connection.
You know, you're the only person on earth that instructed me that the corn had the spirit. So today I'm afraid of eating corn.
No, take that, because that beautiful energy from source is in there just waiting to nourish you and to help you nourish not only your body, but your soul. And so we look at that connection, the spirit, mind, body connection. And when we look at the spirit, mind, body connection, it all intertwines and overlaps with the three circle images I have there. In the center is where we find wholeness. If we focus on only developing our mind, we might have a circle that's way too big because we've not balanced spirit in our physical needs. Or if you are only just working out and forget about the other two elements, there's not a balance. And so we're looking not only to get a balance, because that's where we are centered in our wholeness, our oneness, our connection with spirit. And with that wellness and wholeness, that's where we expand, and we expand outward. And over the many years, we have known through the teachings of many different religions or spiritual masters that the divine love for man from spirit, whether you call that person God or spirit or the source, this powerful spirit has been through the ages taught to us through the various masters and religions. And we touched on that a bit in our earlier lecture, and so I won't touch on that, but just to bring you back to knowing that that corn you want to have this evening is full of spiritual energy that's going to match and be in tune with your energy.
We absorb the prana when we are eating the fruit and vegetable. We also are absorbing pranic energy, spiritual energy.
Absolutely. And here's a beautiful quote. Spiritual nutrition transcends all cultural borders. It is a part of the original spiritual teachings in every country in the world, in every faith, all the way back to the ancient Essenes and the wisdom of the rishis, masters of India, regardless of our creed, our culture, nutrition, it was given to us to use as a tool, a step on the path to enlightenment. And I think that just sums it all up in looking at the power. And when we acknowledge that, we're not going to want to embrace a cereal in a box. When we acknowledge, because that energy has been so bombarded by all kinds of chemicals that the prana energy is almost dissipated.
Yeah.
So we're looking at nurturing the house of our soul and knowing that that spiritual energy coming through those foods that we're taking in really is going to nourish our physical body as well as the soul. So nurturing the house of the soul, acknowledging that we're more than just a physical body. And most of the people that would be drawn to this type of teaching are very aware of that. There's a segment of our cultures, in every culture, that has no connection between the nutrition they take in and how their body functions. There's a real disconnect. And I'm urging you and encouraging you to connect and understand that you're more than just a physical body, that we're a spiritual source. And if we nourish the body, we nourish the spark of that life that's in the body, that spiritual source.
Wait a minute. You said something.
And if we, as individual, if we recognize the body is sacred, it's a temple, it's the house of your soul, it's sacred, you will then look at the nutrition that you're taking in as sacred. You build the foundation of a temple, either out of marble or out of pebbles or out of grass or out of straw. And you building your temple, and you're building the temple of your soul in your body when you're looking at nurturing the soul.
You said something interesting. You said people have difficulty to recognize the connection between health and nutrition. So for them, might it be even more difficult to recognize the spirit aspect of it? Do you believe that this part is also more than lost? If the first is lost, imagine the second one, right? What do you think of that?
Yes, I agree with you that we've lost that connection, and in losing the connection, that food has an impact on the cells in our body and how our liver functions and how our pancreas will function. If we've lost the connection just between what we eat and how we feel, we then have really disconnected from knowing that there is spiritual energy in that food that can heal us both physically and spiritually.
Right.
So trying to motivate, inspire, to get that connection and understand that is really what my mission nutrition is all about.
Don't give up.
No, I won't give up. So nurturing the house of our soul is really looking at what we've just discussed, our relationship with food. And as a psychologist, I can see the relationships and dysfunctional relationships with food can cause a real disconnect. So a truly involved nutritional approach has us looking at the body and how it is working, and then takes us beyond our body. it's looking at how we can see things positively and spiritually. So that's critically important when we look at that. So moving forward in looking at that, spiritual energy, if we recognize that in the corn, the tomato I had this morning, the peaches, the Swiss chard, that the spiritual energy is connecting us with the light, with source, with the sun. And so we're looking at that source energy coming into us every day, nurturing us. And if you'll allow me just to take a quick little science trip down basic biology, is our beautiful sun, our life source. Without our beautiful sun, we would not be able to have any life on this planet. You and I would not be speaking. And so our sun is captured through a process called photosynthesis. And that photosynthesis is what transforms the seed into a seedling, into a plant, into a flower, into a tomato. And that's photosynthesis. It comes from the sun. That amazing, amazing transformation of energy from the sun to our bodies. And when we look at the energy, and this is looking at the human energy, the spirit of food with taking in food with mindfulness and appreciation, with love, because that's this image that I chose is an image from photography that looks at the human body and the energy light coming off of that. And so we know that that light can be diminished depending on the energetic fields of the foods that you're taking in. Each food has an energetic field. And we're connecting today with that understanding of how the sun, that energy that's free, it's out there for us to enjoy and embrace, connects to us daily, and how we can connect to it even on a cloudy day. If you've got a cloudy day and you can't see your sun source, you can feel your spirit source, have some fresh spinach, have a nice bite of an apple, eat a fresh peach, and you will begin to have that connection with source energy. We know that modern technology has helped us look at color. And this particular slide I chose just shows you that each color vibrates at a different level. And the importance of understanding this is that if you're only eating things that are red, you're vibrating at a very slow rooted vibration, where when you're getting into the purples, your vibration is a little bit higher. So these are just examples of how color and vibration have an impact on our body. And when we look at foods vibrating, I've got some images here from Carolyn Photography that shows you the energy fields coming off of foods. And the sprout, which is the very beginning of that seedling, moving into becoming a plant, just firing off lots of light. So today's fad of eating sprouts is very much based in understanding that that sprout energetically, nutritionally is power-packed nutritionally, but energetically. Right. And we look at, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, I'm about to say that sprouts are, I'm a pranic healer, right? And I'm listening to what you're telling, and sun contains photon energy, but also in pranic healing, we describe it as sun prana, which is different from photonic energy. And sprouts contain ground prana. It gives us a lot of ground pranic energy. So these food are charging us in prana, isn't it?
Is absolutely supercharged. And it's just amazing. Not only is it replenishing, supporting the pranic energy, but it's supporting our cells to behave in the way that our creator, our source energy wanted our cells to function. And I have some other images here on this slide with looking at the difference between the energetic field of an organic mushroom compared to one that's not organic, and organic broccoli. So you can see that the closer we come to cleaner growing foods, that the energy fields are much stronger than those that have been genetically modified or have been contaminated with pesticides, for example. So when you're comparing and looking at it, it's really interesting. And you were talking about corn. Here's an image of corn.
Yes.
Not only looking at it, whether it's organic or non-organic, but whether it's cooked or whether it's raw. We do know that the cooking process, and I have a slide a little bit later on, does change that energetic field. And you see the raw corn, and I recognize the cooked corn is much tastier than the raw corn, but the raw corn is just really, really full of energy that's coming off of those kernels. And my grandmother always said, you only cook corn 3 minutes. Well, what she was doing basically was almost eating raw corn, and it was only getting sterilized from any of the outside elements that might have been on the corn. So I guess grandma did know something at a very different level.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I have a question about cooking, and
yes.
you will confirm or infirm. I know that in some vegetables, for example, tomato, as opposed to other vegetable, there are some vitamins and nutrients that are expressed because of the chemical reaction when cooked.
Right, exactly. You have, well, I'm going to get to the cooking in a minute. So I'll just go through this segment and then we'll
get to that.
Look at cooking. This is, again, I'm just sharing with you some energy fields between raw cabbage and cooked cabbage. Cabbage, we know, is best fermented or like in a sauerkraut type of, or kimchi, I'm probably saying that wrong, and coleslaw, anything with vinegars, you use that. It is an amazing. So if you can have raw cabbage and ferment that with, and recipes I can forward on to you if you would like, that really, really are beneficial. And we'll touch on that when we talk about gut health in another part of our series. So just continuing on, looking at a genetically modified mushroom compared to an organic, the energy field. And again, this gets me into the cooking part of it. If you look at steamed broccoli as compared to broccoli that's microwaved, the microwaving has a real negative effect on the energy field and the nutritional component of the food. So when I said, let's take a look at cooking, Francois, you are absolutely right. There are some foods that raw, we take them in and they retain almost 100% of their nutrients, depending if I take that apple off the tree and eat it right away, or I take the spinach out of my garden, rinse it off and eat it within an hour or so, I'm getting almost 100% of the nutrient value. If I start steaming, stir frying, or even putting it in the oven, steaming or stir frying, I'm going to lose about 11% of the nutrients in those foods. And that's because with those two processes, we tend not to cook them. They've got a crispiness to it. If you're boiling or baking, you're going to lose about 66% of the nutrients.
Wow.
And microwaving, that's the biggest loss of all.
We lose everything.
So you lose almost everything. So if you've gone to the trouble of getting organic asparagus or an organic vegetable and you clean it and put it in your microwave, you've just wasted so much money. And not only that, it's the microwaving, as they demonstrated through our photography, again, modifies that energy field. The prana energy is dissipated. And so you're losing. When it comes to certain fruits and vegetables, plants that we have, some are better, like fresh basil is much better in terms of nutrient value than a dried or cooked basil. But either way, it's good that you have that, some of the nutrient value of that particular plant. Tomatoes are very, very interesting. And cooked tomato release and make bioavailable, meaning it'll get into the body, the lycopenes that are so important
Right.
For our health. And so, and we know that lycopene levels are really important in terms of prostate health. So if you have men in your family, your brothers, your dads, your uncles, your sons, your cousins, make sure that they get a good tablespoon of tomato paste or the equivalent every day. A lycopene pill, no, but because that's an isolated. You want to make sure you're getting lycopene when it's surrounded with the 10,000 other phytonutrients.
Yeah, because there is a synergy.
Lycopene on its own is not going to work, but lycopene within the context of the 10,000 other phytonutrients that join together, that's when it's powerful.
Yeah, because they are entering into a synergy.
So when we look at the energy of live foods, it's Dr. Gabriel Cousins has a center in Arizona in the United States, but he really, I loved what he said. We have the most potent diet for maintaining health and well-being and activating spirit that is available on the planet. So meaning that if you have a nice, fresh smoothie, and I like smoothies rather than juicing because a smoothie, if I juice spinach, I lose the fiber. If I'm putting spinach and celery and avocado and all of that and I make a smoothie, I am eating such fresh live energy. And it was very well summed up by Dr. Gabriel Cousins.
A smoothie is in a blender, right?
In a blender, yeah, rather than a juicer, yeah. So when we're connecting with those energy fields of our foods, we're looking at those foods that are natural, as fresh as possible. And in today's world, most villages, most towns, most cities do not have available to them at their back door a fresh food supply. So that eating fresh is a challenge. Eating foods that are not processed, clean, meaning they're not full of chemicals and pesticides. And the other key element is with gratitude, and that gratitude of being aware that the food came into your presence because someone picked it, someone planted it, someone drove a big truck to get it to you, someone then maybe worked on the docks on the ships and brought the food to you. And the cashier, bless him and her for being a part of that chain of getting the food to you. So it's always at every point being aware. And sometimes I'm in a rush and I'll get in the car and say, oh, I forgot to say thank you. So I'm saying thank you. So being really mindful of those ways in which the food has come to us, mindful that we're choosing foods that are going to heal us, mindful that we are consuming something that will nourish us at the cellular level as well as the spiritual level. Last time we did a meditation, and I just want to remind you that a full meditation of 20 minutes or so might not be what you need to do every day, but that being mindful prior to a meal is so very important. And I think I shared with you the last time where students were researched about their eating habits, and those that were given a plate of food and gobbled it down, they had produced less saliva in their mouth. They were tested afterwards. They had more digestive issues. Then they flipped the group, the other group that was given food, and they had to wait 30 to 45 seconds. Food sitting in front of them. They didn't have to do anything but focus on the food. If they were religious, they might have said a prayer, but just that moment of being aware that you are in the presence of food and energy, those that were eating mindfully found that there was more saliva was produced, which is the beginning stages of digestion, less digestive issues, and a better outcome in terms of, I thought, wow, they need to do this research one more step to see how bioavailable the food was. Did it really get into their body? So we won't do a meditation today at this point, but just to know that as you connect with the food, that knowing that it does have energy, and to be mindful of that energy that will bring you through that meditative mindfulness process.
Is that the same thing as blessing the food? I see people sometimes blessing their food, and there is some religions that are doing that. Is that the same thing?
I would say yes. The food is blessed, and it's acknowledging that food is blessed. Like, wow. So blessing and gratitude and thankfulness for the food. So whether you, the prayer, the grace that my family, that my tradition was always to thank for the food. Thank you, God, for the food we eat. That was it. It's that mindfulness and really looking at taking that moment of, okay, did they know that saying a blessing, what it was doing for them? I'm not sure. But we do know that mindful eating does have an impact on how the body reacts.
I believe they know.
Pardon?
I believe they know.
Yes.
Because if we say that a corn is that corn.
Yes, that corn. I'm going to go out and buy corn to have tonight because it sounds so good.
Yes.
I remember as I was doing teacher training with Dr. Bally, Dr. Madden Bally, one of our masters here in Montreal, a blessing in all of our lives. He was concerned when people would arrive at the class with their, you know, their famous coffee cup in hand, and it was like, okay, we need to prepare ourselves for the class. Yeah. So the next image I have here, a lot of foods, and we are drawn to a particular kind of food. This is looking at food choice, and we're drawn to certain foods. Like I love red grapes. I love beets. So I'm often attracted to root chakra foods.
Mm.
And there are times when I want something lighter. And I find as we make those choices throughout the day, we have our favorites. We're going to take a look at that in terms of the food and how it corresponds to our chakras. So every food contains a unique energetic signature. That's really an important statement. It contains a unique energetic signature. Now, science has demonstrated that every food contains a unique set of phytochemicals or phytonutrients, and they have labeled them now because modern technology has been able to say there are over 12,000 phytonutrients that they've been able to identify.
Right.
And each food contains its own unique set of phytonutrients, that synergy. So we're going to take a moment to look at the food color and our chakras. This is an important element. When we look at the colors of our chakra and foods that will help us strengthen, I remember someone saying, Mama, your root chakra needs strengthening. And so we can meditate on that, we can work on that, and we also can nourish that. So for example, when we look at the root chakra, which includes our large intestine, small intestine, that's where our nutrients are absorbed. And the root chakra system is the joint, muscle, and bones.
Right.
So that's a real structural, strong area. And when we're looking at what are the foods that I need to nourish, and we're looking at beetroot, the dark red colors that will correspond, your black beans, dark mushrooms, cinnamon, any of the dark fruits that you would be able to find within your area where you're living. Someone had said, well, this cherry, and I said, is it a white cherry or is it more of a dark red cherry? So it's looking at the color of the food. Really important that we're looking at red. And that vibration, if you remember the slide where it's a very slow and strong vibration. And those are the foods that will nourish at that level. Here are some of the red cabbages, red peppers, even your dark red pino peppers, the ones that are quite spicy. And for North American palate, people often stay away from them. They say, oh no, it gives me acid reflux. And it's counterintuitive because that dark spice of paprika or the dark red peppers, they really enhance the intestinal tract. And so it's getting that nutrition into us so that we can really then benefit from the nutrition of our red vegetables.
So it resides in the pigment, basically.
Right, it resides in the pigment, absolutely. The darker the pigment, especially the dark reds inside. For example, watermelon is green on the outside, but it's here in this list, you see, because it's red on the inside.
Right.
So, and it's amazing. It also has lycopene in it, another good source. But don't cook your watermelon to get the lycopene. Use the watermelon for a lot of other good
but
nutrients.
there is recipe for watermelon soup, however.
Yes.
It exists.
That's right. I know. So then we look at our sacral chakra, and that is the area between our root chakra and the kind of the just a little bit above the belly button.
Right.
We're looking at our bladder and our kidneys and our reproductive areas where those systems are nourished with orange foods such as oranges that are available now. It's become such a commercialized product. They're available most everywhere. Carrots, the orange carrots, make sure they're organic. Turmeric is a great spice that really, really is great for the bladder and the kidneys, getting as much turmeric into your body. Pumpkin, the kinds of orange fruits and vegetables that would really, the orange pepper. We have the red pepper up here. You want that orange pepper. There are beans that fit into that orange area. Some peaches fit in that. They're darker orange on the inside. So it's the phytonutrient makeup and the color, the vibration of the color that feed that particular chakra. But the solar plexus, and that's gets you right there in the stomach. And people think the stomach is down below the belly button. The stomach is really sits a little bit above, and that's your liver, your spleen, your gallbladder, and they need yellow foods. And whether it's yellow lentils or even your chickpeas can fall into that area. The yellow peppers, there are a lot of yellow zucchinis and squash, the pineapple, some of the they're bananas. Bananas can be considered yellow because they're yellow on the outside, or they can be considered white. So it vibrates at two different levels.
Yeah.
Similar to the watermelon in that respect. So when we're looking at the foods that are vibrating yellow, you add in your pineapple, all of those wonderful lemon. These are things that can really enhance that whole part of our body that often there's a lot of breakdown. And when someone said, I don't trust my gut feeling, and I always say to people, trust your gut feeling. And someone said, I can't. And you might be out of tune with your gut feeling because that whole area in terms of your solar plexus is not being nourished. And so it can't give you the messages that it wants to give you. So listen to that and
would you include there other carrots that are there is yellow carrots? Would you include there as well?
Yeah, yellow carrots can go there, absolutely. There's yellow potatoes. There, for example, yams can go from purple, and that I would use for my third eye, and some are orange, and you would have that for your you could have your squash in there or sweet potatoes there. So we're looking at the foods. Onions can go in this yellow area, but they also can be in a white. So depending on that vibration, the color of that onion, how it's vibrating.
But the list could be longer. In fact,
right. I'm just giving you examples.
Yeah, I understand.
Exactly.
Right.
Heart chakra, and the upper arms and the thymus glands. That whole area is nourished with green. So your green cabbages, your green broccoli, kale, spinach. I think this image sums it all up. Isn't that beautiful?
Oh.
Picture of a cabbage that is so beautiful, and how that can help our heart health. And just think green. Think green, and people say don't eat green. Well, if you're eating, for example, the leeks, the white part of the leek goes into our crown chakra, and when we're eating the darker part of leeks and kale and cabbages, you're looking at the nourishing the heart chakra. So you can get which I love, the long, what we call here in North America, Chinese cabbage. It's, I don't know what you would call it, Francois.
That's Chinese cabbage. This is how it's called here also.
Okay. It's beautiful because it combines the vibration of the heart chakra as well as the third, the crown chakra. Yeah. So it's just there to nourish you and inspire you and help you strengthen your chakras. And then we get to the throat chakra. And at this point, we're looking at that whole area of your taste, smell, your thyroid gland. Your throat is where, it's where all the germs and like the viruses coming into us, we breathe them in, and they're either stopped at that, caught in the throat area and eliminated and doesn't get any further. It's acted as a stopping point. Your nose also. So all of that is really at this point, especially with what's going on in the world with virus contamination, keep your throat chakra strong with berries and the throat healing plan is, I found that this was really, really important. I found it and I said, oh yes, chew your food thoroughly, okay? And that stimulates the saliva. Eat with again, with being mindful, eating those dark berries, blueberries. I was hoping that I would have the time to research some of the dark fruits that are produced in your area. But eating all of these, eggplant is one. It's a dark one that you can use. And we go from there to the third eye. Sometimes people that have a hard time getting their words out, it's because it's stuck. So wearing blue, if you're getting ready to speak, or you have to talk to someone and you're uncomfortable about talking to them, wear a blue scarf. Put a blue vibration around your throat. Eat a lot of good blue, dark blue foods, and you will strengthen your throat chakra. Then we have the third eye, which is indigo colors, and that's your dark purples. And the third eye, wow, is your brain, your neurological system, your vision, your hormones. We look at the thymus gland. We're really looking at that vibration is really, really high when we look at that on the color chart. So if you're really wanting to go into a quiet down state, to be able to begin to meditate and calm yourself, these are the kinds of foods that you're going to look at in terms of putting yourself and nourishing that third eye so that you can then pull in and go into, I find, a better meditative state. So the eggplant, the dark cabbages, the blueberries, the dark grapes, there are purple carrots now that you can get.
Right.
Those are ancient grains. They're dark purple tomatoes that are available that are great. Plums, the purple plums. So any fruits that you can find in the market near you that are dark. If you're saying going to a yoga class tonight, I would suggest that you want to perhaps consume some of these foods, because that will help with that vibration in terms of opening the third eye. So then we get to the crown chakra, opening up that area. And water is one of the first things that you think of. Again, we're looking at our brain, the pineal gland. It is the chakra that really connecting all systems, the master. So if the master is not hydrated, and I can't emphasize enough, water is so critically important to our well-being, to our clear thinking, to nourishing all of our chakras, that we find that people that are tired, often just one glass of water rejuvenates them. They do not need coffee. All they need was water. They were dehydrated. So water is probably the first way that you wake up in the morning, you can nourish your crown chakra. You're also going to prepare your body to take in food for the rest of the day. And that water should be warm, not boiling necessarily, but not ice cold either. So water is critically important. Purple plums, lavender tea, coconut, that's white. So we're looking at all very light foods. Coconut water, excellent source of hydration as well as nourishment for the chakra. So just in summary is knowing that regularly in one day, if you can eat the colors of the rainbow, which the Canadian Food Guide jumped on the bandwagon about 8 years ago, and they thought they had really discovered something. And I thought, oh my gosh, for thousands of years, we have had messages to eat the color of the chakras. And the West is just now getting connected. Harvard School of Medicine saying, eat the colors of the rainbow. So the universe has been giving us the message and knocking and hoping that we will follow those guidelines. When we're looking at foods, I really wanted to point out that there's we've talked about food that has the ultimate amount of nutrients. And we're all stuck in a situation in many ways where we rely on other food sources. And there's been a decline in the nutrients in the foods over the past 40 or 50 years. And when they, in the University of Illinois, studied food crops, they have the DNA and the crops from earlier food content, the Department of Agriculture, they were comparing and could see. And really a lot of it has to do with soils are depleted of their minerals. there's soil contamination. So a lot of things why nutrients are declined. The other thing is that we're relying on outside sources for food. So foods that you pick right off the tomato, you picked off the vine. I had a tomato this morning that came from the vine yesterday. We know that the nutritional value is pretty much stays intact when we talked about that in earlier. And so when you're looking at transporting fruits and vegetables, time is of essence. So if spinach is flown into Dorval Airport in Montreal, sits in a cold storage, then the trucks come in and take them off to our various grocery stores, that spinach has been off the vine for at least 6 or 7 days in that transporting process. So we know that fruits and vegetables lose up to 80% of their nutrient value within a few days of harvesting. So even though we're getting the fresh organic spinach that got flown in from California, it's probably only about a half of its nutritional value of when it was picked. So during that time, we know that the longer food stays on the vine, the more the nutrition from source energy gets into it. So if they pick tomatoes green and then let them sit and they turn red, that tomato doesn't have very much nutrient value because it lost its connection with source during the critical ripening period. It was taken away from mother. It's a way a premature child is born and needs all sorts of support to be able to develop normally during that process. So the ripening of foods on the vine is so critical, and most of our foods do come, they're harvested before they're ready to be harvested. So for us at this time, and I put this in the context of looking at that spirit nutrition connection, the longer that we're getting our food off the vine, the greater the amount of pranic energy is lost. And where we're looking at how do we, as a culture, develop, and this is really being brought into wondering what's going on. How do we develop sustainable growing systems that don't rely on big tractors and big transport from airplanes or trucks or container ships? We really need to look at how does a village get a sustainable growing system? How does a community find ways? And so we look at rooftop gardens on commercial buildings. These are rooftop towers that there's President Clinton was looking at some of these for a food bank in California. It's finding sustainable systems that can replace having to transport food for so long, because we lose the energy. It becomes dead nutrients. We don't have the value of the nutrients. And I'm not going to really go into it, but there are a lot of different growing systems. I'm showing you, here's another one that can be used in the home or on a deck very easily. As a consumer, you want to look at how do you find the foods that will nourish the soul. How will you find those foods? Be mindful when you go to the market. Where was this food grown? Oh, it was grown on Ile Perrot. Okay. What seeds were used? Were they the organic seeds, or are these from a big, huge commercial international conglomerate that's taking over? Who harvested the food? Was it done by the people local? Was it using and exploiting labor? What are the conditions? Because all of that energy goes into the food. If a very angry, exploited individual is harvesting your food, the energy gets transferred into that. And we're looking at, we want to have happy food coming into our body and into our energy levels. So under what conditions is it natural? And did you read the label? And that's a whole nother workshop on how to read the labels.
Yeah,
and know
another
what's
lecture. We'll have a lecture about that, right?
Yes, yes. So knowing that, there's a lot of things to think about. And some of this becomes almost automatic once you have the understanding of how important it is that we are mindful of where our food came from and how it is impacting us. So connecting with the spirit of the food that you eat, you need to think and reflect. Where did it come from? You need to slow down and enjoy that. Rejoice in your choice. Don't say, oh, shoot, I should have gotten something else. No, be happy that the corn that you bought is going to be good, or the lettuce, or be happy with the choices that you've made. The awareness of how that energy is coming into you, and an acceptance that this food that you're taking in with gratitude, with reflecting, with the good choices, that it is allowing you to be healthy. And being healthy has nothing to do with how you look. It's being complete at a cellular level and at an energetic level. And that it's all a part of the universal plan, that you've connected with food that's connecting with you. And so looking at the energy, again, some of the beautiful photography by Carolyn, that the human energy, we give energy to the plants and plants give energy to us. Right. And it's a beautiful cycle that we go through.
That is.
And so I encourage you to continue the journey of good food choices for your spiritual development. Thank you.
I am mind blown, Dr. Suzanne, because again, I will repeat you that this is something that I was expecting for so many times, and it completes the knowledge of energy healing that I practice, that I teach. And this is a very interesting approach. Not only shall we be mindful of what we eat, but from where it comes from, and the biological aspect plus the trade, even the trade, the fair trade has an impact on it, because energy, the fruit and vegetable store our energy. Whoever takes this apple, this is what I teach to the students when they are receiving their crystals. Crystals are like a hard drive. It is recording your information. And so whoever is taking it records your energy. So it's like a hard drive, right? So you don't want to have crap in it.
No, no.
But no. I also teach things to clear that out. So maybe I will I will teach you things that you can clean the dirty energy of
right. I'm fascinated. I was able to get a hold of some research that was done on trees and trees communicating to each other. And this research was done back in the 60s and early 70s. And they put electrodes on the trees, and they were communicating. They could different vibrations, and it would going back and forth. So it's amazing. So if trees communicate,
Yeah.
surely the apples and the pears and
Of
the
course.
grapes and the carrots, they're all talking to us,
Yes.
and we're connecting with them.
And corn. Our corn. Dr. Suzanne, thank you so much. We are crazy about you. We are very happy. And every day we are going to eat your words because you are going to energize. Thank you. God bless you and see you in a very few.
Okay. Oh, just remember, good dark chocolate is good for the root chakra.
Ah, very good. So
Good dark chocolate. Good,
Very nice.
good dark chocolate. Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.
For now. Bye.